Hi, I'm Athol Guy from the Seekers. It's 60 years this December since our band first performed together at a little cafe in Melbourne. Judith Durham took centre stage with the boys that night, and her voice would become the heartbeat of our sound that carried those magical songs to the world. But behind the scenes, Judith had long battled a chronic lung condition, and recently, to our enormous sadness, an infection would prove fatal. Tonight, as Australian Story looks back at the story of the Seekers, those of us who knew Judith best share memories of her incredible legacy and resilience.
Australia is mourning a music legend. Judith Durham has died at the age of 79.
On the 4th of August, we got I got the news that that Judith had been taken to hospital. I spoke to her, and I didn't know it at the time that was going to be the final conversation.
Of course, comes as an awful door slamming when you get the news, but for me, she hasn't left. And I'm sure the boys feel the same way.
Performing and singing was her passion. Well, I think her legacy was being part of the first Australian pop group that made it big internationally.
The Seekers came into my life in the early 60s. They had a sound which was unique. Judith was a girl with a wonderful voice that made the Seekers a totally different band, and a band that had to be considered a huge future success.
The Seekers flew the flag for Australian music. They were the first major group to make it big in the UK. And I think it made people aware of the fact that Australia did have actually a music industry.
So let's give the Seekers a very cordial American welcome. So let's really hear it.
Fabulous Seekers!
There's a new world somewhere they call the Promised Land.
I don't think we truly understood that we'd sort of conquered the charts to the extent we had, rivaling the Beatles.
Our second single knocked the Beatles' Ticket to Ride off the top of the charts.
And because we'd had the Georgy Girl hit, the press absolutely saw us as international stars.
Hey there, Georgy Girl, there's another Georgy deep inside.
It wasn't plain sailing. Along the way, there's the usual disagreements or tensions that any group of four very different people are going to have. And they produced moments of great drama at times. And certainly for me, it's a story of great redemption. It's just a very human story.
We're having a little celebration today for Keith's birthday. It's about 3 years since we've all been together.
Well, to have the four of us all together is quite a remarkable thing, you know, really.
We got together 3 years ago in 2019. It just happened to be my birthday, and we had a great time.
It's the cake man.
Oh, fantastic.
How lovely to see you all.
But it was probably the last time, actually, that we got together.
Happy birthday to you.
I believe that there was an indefinable bond between Judith, Athol, Bruce and me. We were a family.
You remember this car here?
Oh, I do.
My pride and joy.
Wow.
I do.
What is it?
DB5 Aston Martin.
Aston Martin. Well, you don't look any different, Athol, except you've got no hair. But otherwise...
Judith never missed the opportunity to give us a bit of a ribbing because she was sort of like a little sister, you know. She always had something tucked up her sleeve.
There we go. Hey!
Hey, look.
Oh, that's incredible. Oh, you'd be struggling to get me up there now.
There we were, 4 individuals who were so different, but collectively got together around the love of music, which was, you know, in all our homes.
My first memories of music really were both singing and piano. Dad was a great pianist, and I used to sing with my sister as well, you know, harmony around the piano with Grandma. But I'd play piano for the girls to march in at school.
When Judy was about 3 or 4, she caught the measles, and that left her with a lung disease called bronchiectasis, which is basically an infection in the lower part of the lung, and it is incurable and worsens with life. But back then it really wasn't a huge issue. She just was totally focused on her music, and she would say that she knew she was going to be famous and sing on stages around the world.
Australia back in the 50s and 60s was a very different Australia. A very important part of the entertainment at that time were the jazz clubs.
My sister Beverly and I both, we were frequenting the trad jazz clubs around Melbourne. And I went up and asked a band if I could sing with them. And it was quite late in the night, and they said, oh, we'll come back next week.
We did go back next week, and she was up on the stage. I thought, wow, she's done it. And so from then on, they offered her a weekly job singing with the band.
Keith and I got talking. He had a group, and we shared the love of similar music. We formed a group called the Escorts, 4 boys.
Our own escorts.
The Escorts kind of morphed into the Seekers. We started doing some folk songs. Ken Ray, when he decided to get married and leave the group, instead of looking around for a bloke, we looked around for a girl.
This train on Cano Extras, this train. This train on Cano Extras, this train.
Well, when I first heard Judith Durham sing, I was absolutely knocked out. She was one of those voices that you could identify straight away.
This train above the glory, this train.
In 1964, Athol organised a trip for us on a ship called the Fair Sky to England, and our deal was that we would play on board the boat and stay there in England for 10 weeks and return back to Australia.
I don't think I would have gone if I thought it was going to be more than 10 weeks. I was very much, you know, with my parents, and I wasn't intending to leave home for a long time, and I wasn't geared up for it.
Our parents, they were quite worried, really, about her leaving with 3 boys because she was only about probably 19 then.
We were in total wonderment. Suddenly we were in this incredible country. London at that time was the swinging music capital of the whole universe, you know. There were the Beatles here, the Rolling Stones there, the Kinks, all sort of solo artists like Dusty Springfield.
Here's us as a straight Australian folk group. I guess we were so different, we were outrageous in our own way.
My trend-setting idol was the Queen, so I'd have my matching handbag and matching gloves. I was not at all tuned into Carnaby Street.
And suddenly we found that we were right in the thick of it because we started working pretty much as soon as we got off the ship.
My swaggle on my shoulder, Black Billy in my hand.
We recorded a number of songs from our early days in Australia, but there really wasn't a lot of interest at that time. I think we needed something different musically, and that was where the connection with Tom Springfield was made.
Tom came round to meet us all, which was fabulous, and on a little piece of paper had written out the lyrics to I'll Never Find Another You.
Abbey Road in those days, there was an upstairs and downstairs. And in the downstairs, huge studio was where the Beatles would record. So we record I'll Never Find Another You in that studio on the ground floor.
I know I'll never find another you.
What made the Seekers different, I think, was their blend of voices. The Seekers was a new sound, and people go, wow, what was that?
We had Keith singing the high tenor part. He was a lot of times slightly sharp. Hope he won't mind me saying that. I was the next voice down, the baritone, slightly under the note.
I don't know what I do.
Judith singing melody in a clear, tuneful voice, and Athol always very tuneful down in the bottom end with the bass. Together, it produced a very unique, edgy vocal sound that not a lot of people could duplicate.
This is Radio Caroline on 199, England's first commercial radio station.
The Seekers had just recorded I'll Never Find Another You, but they couldn't get anyone to hear it because the BBC would not play songs until they became hits. There was no commercial radio in the UK. So the Seekers got their start through pirate radio because nobody else would play their songs.
We were at EMI's offices and the door just about crashed off its hinges as the team out there came in shouting, "You're number one, you're number one, you're number one." And we went, "We are number one." How do we do that?
The pressure was always on after the first hit to come up with another one.
We'd like to sing for you now a song that we hope will be nearly as successful as I'll Never Find Another You. That's a song written for us again by Tom Springfield. It was released last Friday. It's called A World of Our Own.
Just after I'll Never Find Another You, the New Musical Express announced that the Seekers had been named the top best new group, which was fantastic because the group that won it the year before was the Rolling Stones, and the group that won it the year before them was the Beatles.
We'll build a world of our own that no one else can share.
Of course, we went to the big poll winners concert. So Rolling Stones were on, the Beatles, and, you know, and there we were. Little Seekers, I mean, blimey, you know. And there I am in my homemade dress, you know. It's a classic, isn't it?
But here are the world's greatest and the Beatles.
We were in our dressing rooms on the day of the concert, and Eddie, our manager, was standing outside the dressing room, and John Lennon walked across to him with a very cheeky grin on his face and said, "They're not a bad little band, you know, but they're all here to see us." Things worked out pretty well. We evened the score by knocking Ticket to Ride off the top of the charts.
Our first tour back in Australia was phenomenal. The streets were just lined with people everywhere we went.
People in Australia who thought that we're second class in most things. All of a sudden, they saw a group of Australians have success the likes of which we'd not seen before.
How did you all feel when you knocked the Beatles off the top of the popularity chart? Keith?
Oh, they were pretty tired when we knocked them off, mate. You know, they'd been there for about 5 or 6 weeks.
It was pretty heavy going because we'd had to do all the interviews and do the shows and everything.
Do you think the time will ever come when Australian artists won't have to go to Europe to become recognised?
10 or even 20 years' time, but I should imagine Australia is going to expand so much that show business life must expand too.
We finished in Australia and then we went on to America. Yeah, so there was hardly time, though, to appreciate what was happening.
After we arrived back in London, we had a 16-week summer season in Bournemouth. Sadly, Judith came down with an illness.
It had been such a whirlwind. Coming back, and then the very next day started rehearsals. Nothing felt right, and I just felt embarrassed and awkward about everything. I had been suffering from nervous exhaustion, but You know, nobody sort of knew that at this time. And so it was pretty heavy going. And, yeah, so anyway, they said I needed 5 weeks rest.
I think the initial success and the constant media attention got all a bit much for Judith.
A hell of a challenge, you know, being the front girl in a group. Not easy for the 3 blokes. You know, quite easy for us.
I was very uncomfortable in my body. I was always wondering, you know, what was I going to do about my weight? And in fact, I went and spoke to a plastic surgeon, you know, because I thought I needed a bust reduction operation. I asked that same doctor, could you also take some, you know, I want hollow cheeks. So, you know, because when I was a child, I used to sit in the cinema and draw my cheeks in, you know, hoping they'd stay in. You know, so I was so self-conscious.
While we were at the pavilion in Bournemouth doing that long season, Tom had been working on other material.
Say goodbye, my own true love.
As we sing the lover's song.
I absolutely loved The Carnival Is Over. It was so emotional. At that time, on the cover of Vogue, there was a pair of white leather boots, and I said to myself, I'm going to buy those boots if we get to number 1. And of course it went to number 1, and I bought my boots, so that was good.
Hello, Georgie, come and play with us. Come on.
Our next hit song was really going to come out of left field because it came from a request from some film producers who were putting a movie together called Georgy Girl. And they wanted the Seekers to record the title track.
Hey there, Georgy Girl, swinging down the street so fancy-free.
The story of the film is about a girl who is really pretty unsure of herself and a bit introspective.
Georgy Girl, look at all the boyfriends you don't get.
I so much related to her because she was so body conscious and washed her hair out in the ladies' room because she wasn't happy with how the hairdresser had done it. It was really so much I related to it.
It was just extremely well written. It became a huge hit in America.
This is the #1 song.
1967 was a very big year for us.
We were to do a Music for the People concert at the Myer Music Bowl.
Well, before we went out on stage for that concert, we were told there was massive crowds. We had no idea.
If you can imagine, a concert by the Seekers drew 200,000 people. And when it was included in their television special, the ratings for that night broke a record which has never been achieved again.
I can't seem to get my sleep now in the old night.
I had no real idea of the future at that point. I was thinking that it could go on for some long time. There was no real thought that things might change in the near future.
You taught me to understand.
Look, I was always receiving requests to go solo. I was wondering when will my time with the band come to an end. It was a safety net. We could have gone on and on and on, and I just was thinking, well, I really have to do something to make a move. I found that artistically I wasn't quite on the same page as the boys. And I just really felt, oh, look, I really feel I need to just do my own thing.
I was disappointed, not only for myself, but for the group, because the group could have gone on for years at that level and developed musically. So that spelt the end of a lot of aspirations for me.
You know, it's not something you welcome with open arms. You know, go, wow, we're breaking up.
And at that time, we were going to be offered a new contract with EMI that would have meant a lot to us financially as well, so that never happened.
I was grateful to be out of obligation. It was pretty hard because we were offered, serious, like it was a big contract. It was a big, big thing to make that decision. And for me, money has never been the object.
So my whole life changed within a matter of days, and the Seekers' days were over for me.
And that is, from all of us, very, very sincerely, thank you. Thank you very, very much. And goodbye, because I'm afraid tonight the carnival really is over.
We went into the BBC studios and recorded the farewell concert.
They had over 10 million people viewing. The feeling of our fans was one of devastation, despair. How could they do this? Very hard to just simply explain, and yeah, it's always hard to explain. It's a moment that you come to accept, and you move on.
After we disbanded in 1968, we all went on to do different things. I formed the new Seekers. Bruce was composing jingles, and he wrote, with Dode Newton, he wrote I'm Australian.
I am, you are, we are Australia. And here's our host, Athol Guy.
Athol went on to host a TV show, a variety show, and then went into politics.
Oh, won't you come along with me?
Judith and her husband, Ron, created a fantastic name for themselves as a duo.
We'll take a boat to the land of dreams. We'll steam down the river down to New Orleans.
Despite their individual successes, I don't believe they were ever as good as when they combined those voices.
I wrote a letter to Judith years after we broke up because I didn't feel easy in my heart about carrying feelings of resentment, particularly towards Judith. I just wanted her to know, from my point of view, how much that breakup had affected me and caused me a lot of hurt.
And I couldn't believe what he was saying. I never thought for a million years that they would have thought that I'd turned my back on them. You know, I'd given notice to them, but I thought everybody was feeling fine.
What happened to the Seekers, Judy?
Well, I think they're still going with a different kind of members in them. They've been sort of on and off for all the years, you know, since I left.
Out of the blue, you know, fate steps in and, you know, pushes you into a point where you need to connect with your friends again.
Judith Durham, one of Australia's first singing superstars, will survive the fatal car crash which killed a woman passenger in the other car.
In 1990, Judith and her husband, Ron Edgeworth, were involved in a terrible car accident that was not their fault. That was the starting point, I suppose. We all got together and had a bit of a dinner and chatted about old times, etc.
It was so great to see the boys. Of course, you know, when we walked in, big hugs, all of us. And when I saw Bruce, I just said to him, look, I'm really sorry if I've ever hurt you.
And I thought, what an incredibly brave thing to say. And I told her that, and I said, you know what, the moment you said that to me, it was all gone.
And then the idea came up that, you know, we hadn't been together for nearly 25 years, so we should have a Silver Jubilee reunion concert.
And I've got to tell you, it was like we hadn't been apart for 25 years. It was just a wonderful thing.
Well, that sparked off another 25 years together and a series of concert tours. And then, of course, our 50th came into view.
We'll build a world of our own that no one else can share.
We wanted to celebrate it because the fact we were all still alive after 50 years was so amazing.
Oh, my love, oh, my love.
Well, it really was particularly amazing for Judy because she had varying health problems that she contended with. She did have this bronchiectasis. Her cough had obviously worsened by that stage, but she still sang with the same enthusiasm and quality.
She's working on probably one lung power a lot of the time, and quite often before a major concert, you know, I could hear Judith sort of coughing her heart out in the next room. I thought, there's no way she's going to get on stage. And every single time she did.
We'll build a world of our own that no one else can share. All our sorrows relieve.
For me, it felt like a rounding out of everything. I remember the fans singing to us. When I left the Albert Hall backstage, all the fans sang to me, A World of Our Own. It was magic, honestly. They all sang me the song. Oh, you know, special memories.
After the Golden Jubilee, Judy did a tour solo of New Zealand, which was very successful. But she decided after that her touring days and performing days, I think, were over. I think she realised at that point that she would rather be creative quietly behind the scenes.
She was still composing some music when she could. We had lots of conversations, phone conversations, where she seemed to be incredibly busy.
Earlier in the year, we were talking about our 60th coming up, December 3 this year, just to work out how we might celebrate. But Judith started to have a few more problems with her bronchial problems.
In late July, it seemed as though her health was diminishing a bit, and it was suggested that she go back for another hospital stay. Her breathing was worsening, and she definitely needed some specialist treatment. I did get a call, and she said that things had become more serious and that she was being moved into palliative care. I felt that each of the guys in the Seekers needed to have a chat with her.
Just had the chance on her last night to say a few words to her on the phone. We're just able to say how much we loved her and how much we treasured our time together.
She had to summon up a massive amount of strength to have any conversation at all. And really lovely conversation, actually. We spoke of our love for each other and what a fantastic road we had travelled.
We're forever grateful for it. And she went literally sort of an hour or so later, very peacefully.
The very next day after Judy died, I got a call from Dan Andrews offering a state memorial for her, and I was delighted.
When Judith died, the grief that it caused so many people was just massive, absolutely massive.
I'm expecting to cry my eyes out today. There's just certain songs, and Georgy Girl. I mean, who didn't love Georgy Girl?
She was just special. I think we all loved her. There was never any scandal. No, so it'll be a special night tonight.
Well, for those of my vintage gathered here and the thousands more who are watching, Judith Durham and the Seekers have been a part of our lives as far back as we can remember.
It was an absolute tsunami, absolute tsunami of love and affection and goodwill from around the whole planet.
I'm speaking from London.
But it may as well be from the whole world, from all the millions of people who grieve the passing of our beloved Judith. We felt she was ours.
And it was quite stunning in its depth of emotion and genuine, affection, for her and her beautiful contribution, to our music.
I think Judy would have been absolutely delighted. It was just a beautiful tribute to her, and I think she'd have been overjoyed.
She was one of the finest voices that Australia has ever had the pleasure, and in fact the world has ever had the pleasure to hear. And as far as the Seekers are concerned, we hope that we have been an uplifting source of energy for some people. And in fact, I think that's where Judith's legacy is as well, that she was a source of energy to a lot of people.
Till